It is time to check in with Chris Dimakos, our CJAD 800 legal contributor. Chris did a story, I guess this is about a week ago, and I think a lot of eyebrows might have been raised at the time when we did. Turns out bailiffs are busier than ever, which is not good news for anyone, I guess, except bailiffs. But this has a lot to do, apparently, with people who are just beginning now or finding out now that are not able to keep up with car payments, even rent. So at what point does a bailiff get involved, and what are your options as someone who's being visited by a bailiff? What do you do? What can you do?
Right. It's very important for everyone listening. A bailiff can do two things. Sometimes they just deliver a demand letter, right? They can deliver a letter to you. It's signed off by a bailiff, certified that it was delivered to you, and they're just basically a heightened level of a delivery person. But the stuff that bailiffs do that many people are unfortunate have to deal with is that if you have a judgment against someone and you want to get paid, what bailiffs do is they execute that judgment. They take your judgment and whatever type of seizure that you're going to use, whether it's going to seize the car or whether you're trying to seize assets, or even if it's to evict somebody out of an apartment that hasn't paid rent, they enforce judgment. So with the economy going the way it has, with interest rates skyrocketing, and if you just look at the different record numbers we have in the bankruptcy proposals and the consumer proposals that are going on right now, there's no question that people are defaulting. And we're already starting to see people they're talking about the default on mortgages. Those are up. Banks are starting to try and collect on the mortgages. So there's no question they're going to be extremely busy. And I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg. I think we're going to see a lot more of this stuff. So what a bailiff does when they get involved is when the lender who lent the money out, whether it's for a car, whether it's or even for a landlord and rent, if they have a judgment that says that you owe them money, they hand that off to the bailiff, and the bailiff enforces the judgment.
All right, I want to go back to a couple of things. Number one, this idea they're enforcing a judgment. Is it possible that you can get served by a bailiff because they have a valid legal document and not even know that there was a judgment against you?
Yeah, so usually you can get, when you get served with a judgment, then it appears on the document itself that you were served with a judgment. You're pretty much aware of that point because what has happened before you've gotten a judgment is there have been legal proceedings. You probably got served with the proceedings, and you probably got served with all the different presentations or the different dates for those proceedings. So it's not just one day you show up and you get a judgment unless you were never informed of the proceedings. And in that case, you have your own legal recourse to try and get things reversed if you never had the chance to defend yourself. But that's very, very a unique situation.
Okay.
If somebody tried to serve you through the newspaper or through the internet, it happens when you can't find a defendant. But in most cases, when you get served with a judgment, you've already been served proceedings and dates of presentation. So you're well aware that things are not going well, and it's no surprise to you that a judgment was rendered.
Okay. I'm just thinking for someone who may have been out of town, maybe gone for a month, 2 months, that kind of a thing, and you come home, you discover
Right.
that. But it would take longer, I guess.
Right. And in some cases, a bailiff has to serve you personally. When someone takes you to court, legal proceedings are usually have to be given to the person. It can't just be left in a mailbox somewhere. So sometimes bailiffs have a hard time finding people, and that's part of their job. They have to track down people to be able to serve them with proceedings.
Okay. The other part of this, and then we'll move on, with respect to cars, for example, right? You lease a car, you buy a car, all of a sudden, for whatever reason, you miss a payment or two, your car can be repossessed, right? It's a legally binding document, but I think you've said this before, and I think the same might apply to mortgages, right? If you're underwater and having trouble, they're not going to act if you miss a payment, right? This is going to take a while, and then when you show that you either have no intention of paying it back or they have no other alternative, that's when they can go ahead and seize.
Right. There's always things that happen. One thing that people have to remember: if someone shows up to your house with a demand letter that you've missed your payment, that's not a judgment. A judgment is what empowers a bailiff to be able to seize something. So many times, if you're talking about, let's say, a mortgage payment, if a bank is asking you and giving you notice that, hey, you've defaulted, please rectify the payments, please pay them up within 60 days. What happens is they will then serve you with legal proceedings. So it doesn't happen instantly. When bailiffs are acting, they're acting because they have the legal authority to act, and that comes through what is called a judgment. But again, there's no question that if you're missing payments, what you do not want to do is just avoid, because the more you avoid, the quicker the process goes, the quicker the process from start to finish where judgment is achieved. If you want the bank to repossess your house at record pace, it's don't call them back, don't
Right.
answer their letters, and then they can operate by telling the court they are MIA, Your Honor. We haven't seen them, they haven't answered any. So the court lets them act quickly. If you strike up a conversation and try to work something out, there's no question that A, you can probably solve your problems by getting somewhat of an extension or a deal. But two, if not for anything, it just will buy you a little more time to work with the bank and see if you can come to some sort of solution.
Okay. By the way, I will tell you, I know somebody in the business when it comes to cars, they actually have a device now that if they have tried to exact payment from you and it's become pretty obvious you have no interest in paying, they can actually turn your engine off on your car and completely disable it.
Well, better, you know what? Better than that, I got one up you. I've heard now that the big companies, the manufacturers, are working on software with these electric cars that if you don't make your payments, the car will self-drive itself to their own parking lot. And they don't have to cut it off or pay anyone to go and retrieve the car. It'll just drive itself to their parking lot.
Yeah, that's definitely one better. That's maybe five better. All right. All this to say you should, try to pay those payments because otherwise this could happen to you. Speaking of payments, real quick, Court of Appeal in Alberta confirms that child support ends when kids turn 18 based on terms of the divorce agreement. I know I said Alberta, and I know they're different everywhere across the country. What's the deal in Quebec?
Right. So it's more a question of kids who are adults who are 18, 19, are going to school full time and are still considered to be dependents are still entitled to support. But in this particular case, what happened was in the divorce terms, they talked about the children of marriage. And there was no language in the divorce that suggested that the payments should go on past them turning 18. So it was more of a specific case based on the terms of divorce where they were saying that it would last up until the children were no longer children. And that's the definition of becoming 18 years old. So just a note for everyone who might be going through a divorce. I know it's a very difficult time, but make sure the language in your divorce agreement addresses a situation even after the kids turn 18. There should be language there about whether the kids are pursuing school and if they're still dependents. All those situations should be addressed in a divorce settlement, because if not, well, then it's up to the interpretation, and sometimes the courts can rule against you in that matter.
So as the advice, before the fact, not after the fact.
Right.
Okay. Chris, as always, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Aaron.